Going live. Love it. Will's already in here with the sub. What's up, brother? Thanks, man.
Thank you, dude.
I'll call that out once we get rolling.
I missed it.
Now that's how you come into a stream and say first.
No kidding. Boom, daddy.
Yeah, apparently there's no way to do bits while the stream is offline for the question from Edward Kirkland earlier today that I could find.
Okay. We don't have like a BWO PayPal set up or anything that he can do?
Oh, sure. We can do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He was asking about bits specifically.
Oh, he was just being funny.
Oh, I didn't read that. I read it as genuine.
He was like, I'll give whatever. Ha ha ha, 5,000 bits.
All right, I'll respond to him and give him the tip jar link.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, exactly.
No. I've been laughing about that Arnold bit from last night all fucking day.
Is it not showing? Aha. There we are. No!
Give it to me. The absolute best pay-per-view of 2020?
I mean, what was better?
I mean, 2 nights of Wrestle Kingdom, 2 nights of WrestleMania. I mean, what's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us. We're getting started. You're in the green room right now. We're doing things a little differently these days until we get things back up and running. Going through some technical difficulties that being on the opposite side of the country from each other introduces. Oh. Is Yardy still... You're still
He's
awake?
still awake?
You, sir, are a madman.
Animal.
Oh, man. That's like me at watching Wrestle Kingdom and it's 8 a.m. the next day. And I'm just...
Were you up for Power Struggle last night?
I made it till 4 a.m. I watched the first hour. I've got to after we're done with the show tonight, I'm going to watch the rest. So
first hour was pretty good.
It was pretty solid, yeah.
Did you get spoilers?
I did not, no. I haven't even looked at the chat channel in Discord yet because it's still lit up, so I don't want to know anything. Are you still talking about power struggle over there?
Yeah.
Are you having your own power struggle?
I'm having a power struggle about power struggle. Oh Lord.
Yeah, Kyle's rattling off a couple as well. Takeover Portland was bomb. That's a hard one to top.
I can't believe that was this year.
I literally said to Esther this morning,
uh,
it's November 8th, and I said it feels like a month ago that I came and got in the bed and we didn't sleep all night, and I said, we don't have a plan, we have to do something, and that was like early March. And then we spent the entire day like stocking up. We did the Walmart run and the Costco run and all that stuff, and we stocked up for like 3 months. That felt like it was last month. I don't know where this. I don't know where it's gone.
It feels like last month. It also feels like 4 years ago. I did a similar thing.
Been sitting in this chair for 8 months. Actually, longer than that, the more I think about it. Like years at this point. 2017. Oh. All right, I got a note. Are we ready to go in 1 minute?
Yes.
Okay, 1 minute warning. Grab a drink if you need it. Lots of talking to do. Oh, goodness. Oh, God. What's up, Josh? You missed a good one, man. I'll save the rest of what I want to say for the show. Mm-hmm. And I think I even said it
I had to take a drink of water to shut myself up.
Yep. All right, let's kick it. I'm going to throw you on mute for the intro.
But okay.
And here we go.
This is the Limitless Keith Lee.
This is Brody King.
This is Angel Garza.
Will Ospreay.
Hornswoggle.
Pentagon Jr.
The villain, Marty Scurll.
The Mexican Ray Phoenix.
King Ricochet.
Concrete Rose, Sunny Kiss.
And I'm here to ask you to stop what you're doing, take just one moment, and bask in the glory of the Busted Wide Open.
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 Busted Wide Open podcast.
You're listening to the Busted Wide Open podcast, dropping the elbow on the hottest topics in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling. With your hosts, Nick Howell and Sir Ian Dangerous. Coming to you from the Orbital Jigsaw Network Arena in sunny Southern California.
Welcome, everybody, to BWO Live, coming to you from Twitch. This is your recap episode of AEW Full Gear. My name is Nick Howell.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. And yes, Full Gear just wrapped up, and it had a crap ton of matches, Nick. We're not used to the 4-hour pay-per-views anymore. It used to be that was everything WWE did. And now, in the post-pandemic era, it's like, what? That was a lot of matches. That was a long pay-per-view. There's a lot to discuss right now, Nick. We have many things to talk about. Titles changed hands. There was blood. There was aggression. There was actually, they're on the line. Some people said they'd never challenge again if they lost. Did they win? Did they lose? We'll talk about it all. But, of course, we can't get into that and talk about it yet, Nick, because we got to do a little business at the top of the show, and then we can discuss the pay-per-view.
Yes, guys, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at BWO Podcast. Thank you, and shout out to everybody in Discord watching along with us tonight. Thank you for making it awesome. If you're not in there, get in there because it's fan-freaking-tastic. We got all kinds of stuff. We're watching Power Struggle last night. We watched Full Gear tonight. We got Survivor Series coming up, and we got live chats happening all week throughout all of the shows that happen throughout every single week. So make sure you get into the Discord. You find links pinned across our social media and down below right here on Twitch in our About section. You can find a link to it right there. Or just hit !Discord in the chat and it'll shoot you a link. The bot will send you a link to get right in. Subscribe over at youtube.com/bustedwideopen. And patrons, thank you guys so much for all of your support every single month. If you are not yet a patron, now is the time because you got to get in there for Survivor Series BWO Patron Pick'ems Challenge. It is happening this month for Survivor Series, where Jeremy Mudsmack will be defending his BWO Patron Pick'ems Championship from SummerSlam. We'll see if we can get a successful title defense this time. It's been a while. We seem to be transitional champions over the course of the last year.
It's because
or so.
it's a bloodbath every time.
Oh, it's so nasty.
Madness.
You guys are missing out. There's at least 40 to 50 people that play every single time. So if you're not in there, you're missing out. It just costs you $5. $5 a month for prizes and stuff and things. All kinds of good stuff. And there's even some fun stuff known as the Booby Prize. You get copies of show notes, audio-only episodes to your podcast app of choice, bonus episodes at the $10 tier, Skype calls at the higher stuff. That is the place to get all of the exclusive rewards over at patreon.com/BW. Oh, and as well as subs and bits right here on Twitch, it is one of the best ways to support you boys.
And thank you to everyone who's already a patron. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you
and
so much for your
subs
support
here on Twitch.
And
Speaking of which,
everyone
I
on Twitch right now, yes.
The best way to show up and yell first when you're in a stream is do what Will James did and drop a tier 1 sub for 3 months in a row. You got a third piece of fried chicken. Oh, man, halfway to a bucket. Halfway to the bucket.
Yes.
So if you guys are missing out on your subs for November, make sure you refresh those and keep the streak alive, because when you get to 6 months, you get yourself a bucket of chicken. Ooh. And as Martin says from across the pond every week, everybody needs peace, love, and fried chicken.
So true.
Well, Ian, that is all the business, but let's not waste any more time, and let's head over and talk about what went down at AEW Full Gear.
Well, let's start off with the pre-show, the buy-in. Everyone got it for free. It was a way to entice people into the show, showing a whole bunch of previews of the matches, etc. But we also had a match between the current NWA Women's Champ, Serena Deeb, and Allison Kay, a former NWA Women's Champ. Allison Kay, of course, lost the title to Thunder Rosa, who Serena Deeb won it off of. So this was an interesting matchup. And it was also our first time seeing Allison Kay in AEW. And frankly, it was a good look for her. I thought it was a really nice match. Great way to showcase both ladies. And it was also a great way to entice people to watch the show. This is the kind of wrestling you're going to get. Just good, well-worked, chippy little match from these ladies. 10 minutes, not very long. And Serena Deeb did retain, which is not too surprising. This was only her second defense. I couldn't really see her losing it back to Allison Kay so quickly, especially when Allison Kay just this last week left NWA. So why would she leave NWA and then win their women's title back? It would have made no sense at all. So,
which is exactly why I picked her to win.
What?
Yep. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm being sarcastic. No, listen, I think I said it in the Discord chat. I want to repeat it here on the show. This is the kind of talent that we need the women's division to get. So I'm very happy to see Allison Kay, very happy to see Serena Deeb, very happy to see a returning Thunder Rosa yet again to AEW once more. So if we can continue to stack the rosters a little bit with some of these veterans of the women's industry, sky's the limit for AEW as far as I'm concerned.
Are the two talking points I had for this were, one, chances that Allison Kay ends up in AEW and value if she does. I'll just weigh in right quick and say she should go to AEW. Hopefully they pull the trigger on her, and she could be a huge asset to a very thin women's division. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I think she'd be a big pickup. But secondly, you mentioned Thunder Rosa, who came out after the match to challenge Serena Deeb again for the title that she lost. So this made me wonder if their next match would even be in AEW. I would imagine it would, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. This all struck to me as something that NWA allowed because it's promotion for them as well. Their name gets said, their promotion's title gets defended, and they promote a match. At the end of this, they promoted an upcoming match for their women's title, and they got all of that essentially for loaning out their title to AEW for their show. So for NWA, who's really up a creek right now after losing one of their executive producers and, the vice president, after losing a ton of their wrestlers, not having a show right now because of the pandemic, this was definitely a positive for them. So it was, I was glad to see it.
Yeah.
But then we got to the main show, Nick, and the things just kicked off right off the bat. The number one contendership.
Cannon.
Good Lord. Number one contendership for the AEW Heavyweight Championship. The finals of the tournament came down to Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. And we haven't seen these guys. They even mentioned this on commentary, which I love that they do in AEW.
Yes.
They call out other promotions. They say if these people have met before outside of the promotion, they weave it into the storylines. These two guys haven't faced each other since Wrestling Dontaku a few years ago in New Japan. That's the last time they faced each other. They've been tag team partners all year, and now they have a nice little video clip set to Cinderella's Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone. And then we had this match, which I'm not going to lie, they could have gone twice the length, and I would have been just as entertained.
Yeah.
I thought it was just about the perfect length and just an all-around fantastic match.
Yeah, and we'll talk about more as the show developed and we got to what we got to at the main event, but I think this was a prologue. When they announced the Eliminator tournament, whatever it was, I immediately saw Kenny and Hangman opposite sides. I'm like, that's too perfect. Line them up. Let's go. Kenny's going to win. Go challenge Moxley for the title to sort of finish this.
Well,
Along the way, we can have a prologue match to finish this tournament out for the number one contendership, and I think this is what we got. We got a little bit of an appetizer, a hot app. On a 5-course meal that we're about to be served once Kenny finally gets that title and we get the inevitable Hangman versus Kenny feud for the AEW Championship.
The fact that Kenny brought up the fact that it was obvious that he and Hangman would face each other in the finals, he was like, of course, it seems destined, doesn't it? Just as it's destined that I hold the AEW Championship because I'm Kenny Omega. And the fact that Kenny's now super cocky and arrogant. And it seems like that would be the best beginning of that story for him, was an obvious rise. Everything seems predestined. Of course, Kenny Omega is going to come along at a certain point as soon as he wants to. He's going to come along and win the title, and it's going to be relatively easy for him. Yep. That is the story right now. And the best part about that is they need to tell that story as fairly obvious as it is in order for the second half of the story to have weight and meaning. The redemption of Hangman Page. The guy who lost, he lost the very first AEW Heavyweight Championship match to Chris Jericho. The guy who then was in a tag team with Kenny Omega and got kicked out of the Elite for getting his head up his own ass and being drunk all the time, and then just not having his head in the game against a guy who is considered one of the best wrestlers in the world today, Kenny Omega. And that was the story of this match, was that they both know each other really well. They're both really good. Hangman's head just isn't in the game. Kenny's just that much better. And even the visual that stuck with me was at the end, after they've beat the crap out of each other, and Kenny just finally gets him up in the one-winged angel position, and Hangman's trying to fight. He's trying to bat off Kenny's other hand. He's trying to, Kenny's trying to capture the head. Once he captures the head, it's all over. And Hangman's trying to bat away the hand. He's trying to fight out of it. He knows what's coming. He can do nothing about it. It's fated because he's just not good enough right now. And then to go down like that so easy and not have this be, this huge epic long match, Kenny's just on a roll. That's beautiful. So as you said, Nick, later on when Hangman comes back around and we have the backside of this, Hangman has to come around, redeem himself to the Bucks, redeem himself to Kenny by perhaps beating him either for the title or just another match. It's going to be that much more worth it looking back at this match.
Absolutely. Yeah, poetic, man. I couldn't have said it much better myself. Let me do a couple of call-outs real quick to catch up. The Uniwiz, which I am led to believe is Yardy, who is somehow still awake on the other side of the planet. I love you, man. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for all the love and support. Thank you for the Tier 1 sub, sir. Also, Josh Logan resubbed with Twitch Prime for 3 months. Got his third piece of chicken. Thank you very much, Josh. Welcome back. And Will James threw us 100 bits. Thank you, Will. Said this match wasn't the 5-star match they can do. They're saving that for when they fight for the AEW title at Double or Nothing?
Question mark?
Don't know if it'll be that soon.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, no, I don't know when it'll be, but I totally agree. They intentionally did not go all out, pardon the pun, on this match. They gave us a very, very good match, but this is definitely the appetizer for what they can do. Nick, you and I both picked this because we thought this is just the story. This is what it's going to be. They even had Don Callis on commentary. 4 guys on commentary during this, and it still worked.
I marked out when Don Callis showed up.
Well, he's the guy you want calling a Kenny Omega match. He proved it again with this match. So, and it was actually fairly smooth even having 4 guys out there. So I wasn't too mad at it, which was surprising.
Next it was great the way they were cueing each other and doing the bouncing around and stuff like that. And Don's always fantastic on the mic.
Yeah. shockingly smooth, considering that sometimes the regular three guys trip over each other. So very surprising. Next up, we had Orange Cassidy versus John Silver in what I like to call the internet darling match. And this was originally going to be on the pre-show, Nick, but they decided to put it on the main show, and they slotted it second, and I thought that was perfect.
Yep.
Having this to follow up the sort of the drama and the emotions of the Kenny Omega and the Hangman Page match and the kind of big story. And then you had this, what starts off as kind of a fun, light match between John Silver, who's the breakout star of the Dark Order and being the Elite, and Orange Cassidy, who's Orange Cassidy. And it starts off with all of the usual stick, and then it evolves into an actual fast-paced, badass wrestling match.
Yep.
So
Speed versus raw power, and I love it.
With speed, I mean, both these guys are fast as hell.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Silver's also a bullet. So I what did you think, Nick? Did this exceed your expectations?
Oh, greatly. I did not. Even when they were first coming out, and the minute the whole, from the start of the match, Orange Cassidy puts his sleeve on and he does the thing, and he's going to put his hands in his pockets. Silver stops him, knocks him down, and rips the pockets out of his pants, and then eats them.
And eats them.
And I'm in. Like, you start when you go to 11 like that, you've got me. I'm in. Like, you don't need to do that much more. Just have a great match after that, and they did, and it was fantastic. And it was a little bit of comedy. It was a lot of great spots. Just a really good time with these two guys, and it greatly exceeded what I thought would be kind of a. Really had no excitement or expectation out to come of it. I was
it'd be
pleasantly
fun.
surprised.
I thought it would be a fun match. I was actually worried that it was going to be it was going to be the kind of match that would give Jim Cornette a heart attack. And it started out that way. But then it very quickly became an actual freaking match. So, no, it very much pleasantly surprised me. It didn't surprise me that Orange Cassidy won. That makes total sense given how over he is and him being the baby face, and you just had Kenny win, and that's kind of confusing because there's no real baby or face in that, baby or heel in that. So this was what it should have been down to a T.
Yeah, and it's okay. You can call John Silver baby heel because he's Whittle.
He's what?
He's Whittle. He's small.
Is that a short joke there, Nick?
He's a small wrestler.
He could bench press you, dude. Do you really want to be saying that?
He could.
Guy's an animal. But no, it was a great match. It ended with Orange Cassidy winning. Not sure if there's going to be any other Dark Order issues in the future. It's still weird that Brody King has been MIA with
Brody
all of
Lee,
this.
You mean?
Brody King. I keep doing that. Our boy Brody King. I just
gotta love Brody.
Gotta love Brody. But then after this, later on in the show, we had the Best Friends facing off with Miro and Kip backstage. Kip wanted a apology from Orange Cassidy. Like the baby face he is, he just said, okay, I'm sorry. Kip immediately slaps him and goes, it's not good enough. And Trent and Chucky both want to jump them, and Orange goes, no. We cool,
That's
man.
Good.
We cool.
Yeah.
I won. I'm high as hell right now. I smoked a blunt the size of John Silver. I'm good. Let's go. So they bone out, and it looks like that's the next feud that we're going to get, and that sounds good to me. They're all. I think that given the fact, I think that Miro, we had big expectations for him coming out of WWE, and it's hard to see what his trajectory is in AEW right now. And I think a lot of us are looking at like a Shawn Spears and saying it's really easy to not go to the top where we think you should be in AEW for some reason. Like some people get there and other people just kind of flounder for whatever reason, whether it's personal, whether it's booking, whatever it is. We know that they have a lot of control of their own booking there, and whether their angles get over is up to if they make good angles. So it remains to be seen. I like
that, though. It puts their fate in their hands in a way.
It does, and it also it shows us who's truly creative. You see Jericho just being off the leash with all of the creativity that he can bring to the table, and the same with everyone around him in the inner circle. And
we'll talk about Hardy here in a minute.
Matt Hardy, perfect example. So, I'm curious. Right now they're having a feud over a broken video game system or stand up or whatever.
It's an arcade cabinet, sir.
Thank you, Nick. Arcade cabinet. Forgive me.
Hey, let me catch up real quick. We got Got some bits from Mr. Brody, and he wanted to say,
"Shut the fuck up, Silver."
All right,
He's
just
not
kidding.
wrong.
Exactly. Also, Will James threw in 100 bits. He says, whatever AEW's version of the brass ring is, Silver has full dominion over that. Dude can't do anything to not be over.
Yep.
He's found his shtick.
Yep.
And it's not that he just stumbled across it. It's that he's been probably the brunt of short jokes for many years, which is why he's as jacked as he is. So he relies on that, but it's still playing into the victim sort of thing every now and then.
I don't even know if it's just that, dude. The guy is just his natural personality, and however he evolved into that, he's just, it's him. Orange Cassidy has this incredibly deep, well thought out gimmick that he's got to be creative with all the time, or it gets stale. On the other side of things, John Silver is just like a force of nature. It's just who he is. So yeah, it is the difference between writing a character and someone just being a character. So it is kind of interesting to compare the two.
And just having natural charisma. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's a brass ring thing. It's just someone who just has it. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the hypocrisy of the brass ring concept. He's got it. Yeah. Thank you, Jericho. No, you know what I mean. He's got it's that weird thing where when Vince said that, a lot of people got pissed because you could see a lot of people in WWE who have it, but then for some reason Vince doesn't say they grab the brass ring, and it's arbitrary thing. And in AEW, you've got to have more than just it. You know what I mean? There's got to be some other, you've got to, like we were just saying, you have to be able to book yourself and whatnot. But then you've got John Silver, who, on being the Elite, you just put him on camera, and him having it just makes him a big deal.
It just plays. Yeah.
Yep. It just plays. So
thank you very much, Will. Let's see, where were we at? So yes, we both picked Orange Cassidy, obviously. Because reasons,
Well, and much like we were saying this week on NXT, like a Cameron Grimes, like a Miz, you look at the guy like John Silver, he can lose a million times, not going to hurt how popular he is.
Right.
Doesn't matter. He's a character.
Yep.
So next up, we had Cody versus Darby Allen. Nick, excuse me, Cody Rhodes, as he was called on this show. Cody Rhodes, he now has his name back. The fans all popped for that as well. He had his TNT Championship match against Darby Allen. And Nick, I don't even know where to start with this. This might have been one of my matches of the night, except if it wasn't for a couple of little tiny nitpicky things.
Well, let's do some full disclosure for transparency and context for what you're about to say. You're not Darby Allen's biggest fan. Was that fair to say?
I am. There's a lot that I like about him.
Okay.
There's a lot that just that rubs me a little bit the wrong way because I'm a grumpy old fuddy-duddy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I get it with Darby Allen. Does that make sense?
Is this your version of mo wrestling?
No, it's my version of it's actually more sociological than it has to do with wrestling.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I long ago got really sick and tired of whiny emo Hot Topic kids, and I'm sorry if any of y'all listen to the show. I apologize. I was once one of you.
Yes.
And I split off from the pack.
I had a starter jacket and I wore Jinko jeans and my skateboard was strapped to my backpack wherever I went. I was one of those kids.
You were the guys that us goth kids wanted to beat up.
Yep.
I was once very much on the the kind of the Darby Allen path in life. So seeing him, I think, is actually something that's it's strictly personal, and I have nothing against him as a wrestler, as a talent, or as a gimmick. All of those things I get and I understand. The gimmick doesn't always connect for me. You know what I mean? It reeks too much of things I've seen before, and I don't believe it always connects, but it's definitely unique. You always know that it's there. Like when it's Darby Allen, you always know it's Darby Allen. And from that standpoint, I think that it's a very strong gimmick. And apparently, AEW thinks the same thing, and so does Cody. This was the fourth match they had. The first one went to a 20-minute time limit draw. The second two, Cody won either straight up by getting his knees up on a coffin drop or by turning over on the coffin drop and pinning him on a crucifix, kind of an ugly crucifix, but whatever. Cody's won the last 2. So Cody coming into this was extremely cocky, saying, look, Darby's not the ace. He's not the face of the place. He's not the face of TNT. I am. It's cute, but Darby's time has come and gone. Well, that was the story in this match was so clean and so clear. And that was the thing that I loved the most about it, Nick, was that you could have never watched anything from these two and just watched that little pre-roll, and you'd have understood everything.
And that and like the end of Dynamite, right? Or they covered what happened at the end of Dynamite.
That's
in
what I'm
that
saying.
pre-roll.
They did. That's just watch the pre-roll, watch the match. It was so clear, so clean. Cody's cocky, not taking Darby seriously. Darby's fighting for his damn life. Cody's got the power, extra muscle. Darby is just so fast and won't lie down. And Cody's not taking him seriously ultimately cost him. And the way that Darby ultimately beats Cody is after all of the damage Cody does to Darby, after all the surviving that Darby does, Darby even trying to take chips out of Cody, and it just doesn't quite happen. They start a roll-up battle, and they go back and forth trading roll-ups until Darby finally gets one on Cody. 1, 2, 3. All it takes is 3 seconds. Darby Allen is your new TNT champion.
Can we talk about that Avalanche Crossroads, though, for a second?
Lord
of mercy. And they had the camera shot, the overhead camera shot of it as they just, and all you saw was like 2 bodies just go flailing off the top turnbuckle. And it was amazing. And I love that they replayed it 2 or 3 times from different vantage points. Fantastic. I loved this match. And I'm right there with you. Definitely up there for contender for match of the night that we probably have to discuss at the end of the show. Because this card was just stacked.
A lot of good matches.
It was so stacked. Do have one bits coming in from Mr. Jacob. Thank you very much. Gave us 100 bits.
Thank you.
Says, as a youngin', 24, I enjoyed Darby's gimmick, but was engrossed in this match. Also, shout out to Darby's body paint.
Oh, it was sick tonight. He had it was like dead trees at the side of his body. It was beautiful.
The theme that his motif that he has everywhere. It was on the car. It's on his skateboard. It's on his chest, on his torso. It's on his face. I love the video package as well, telling the story about how he was in the car. I think it was his uncle, and his uncle passed, but he survived it, and so it's kind of the 50-50 thing of he's half dead. And fine, I love stuff like that. I geek out for stuff like that. Just the story behind something. At least he has a story. How much of the AEW roster doesn't have some kind of story as part of their gimmick? They're just big.
So
right?
Speaking of which, who should come out after the match but Taz? To say, oh, yeah, you had the title. Congratulations, Darby. By the way, you suck. And in comes Cage, a big guy who has a belt from Taz and no story. And Ricky Starks, who's got all the charisma in the world, but no story. He's just the cocky guy who's on Taz's team.
Right.
They come up. They beat up Cody. They put Darby through a placard outside the ring. And then they go and put him through the windshield of the car he drove in on. And then go run off. They get chased off by Will Hobbs when they try to break Darby's arm. So here at the end, as we predicted, Nick, on our pick'ems, Team Taz did come in after the match. We said they're going to factor into this somehow, and it wasn't during the match. Thank God we had a clean finish. But then Team Taz attacks afterwards, and it looks like we're heading back into Darby, Hobbs, and Team Taz again. So fine, not mad at that. But one thing I do have to question is, once again, Team Taz needs a big statement victory.
Yep.
They
had Darby laid out on his own car. They were going to break his arm in the car door until Will Hobbs got out there to stop it.
Yeah, but they got to win a feud. You know what I'm saying? Like, they've got a lot of wins. Yeah, the win-loss record's great, but they need to win a feud.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Something signature to
something
give
signature.
Yep.
Yeah. Like Darby beating Cody. Darby beating Cody, he's going to hang his hat on that forever.
Absolutely, and I think he should just continue to be the little chippy champion that just
relentless
can't be beat.
Right?
You know?
Yeah, you can.
How Cody was going about it for a while there,
but you can't keep him down.
Yeah,
you know that's the other interesting thing is Cody's said on record that AEW doesn't have traditional heels and faces, and that's an easy thing to say. But if you look at Cody, the way his character is being portrayed, he's the definition of it. He was an asshole in this match. He was the heel in this match. He was the heel coming into this match. But at the end, when he was beaten, he looked shook up. He took a moment to act out his internal monologue and the struggle that he was going through with having just been beaten because he let his ego get ahead of him. And then he straight up just knelt down and presented Darby with the belt. So, and in a very, very honorable fashion.
Bestowed it upon him.
Yeah. You know what,
presented
dude?
it to him.
You proved me wrong.
And
well
then
done.
took it and put it on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And raised his hand. And one of the first, and you could see Darby shook. He was emotional. He was hiding his face behind the belt. And there were some real emotions going on there. And you could tell that he was shook up. Even when Cody
Darby's
was
legit
trying
a
to
guy
just raise his arm.
Darby's a guy in real life who's had a lot of people not willing to take chances on him in professional wrestling. And this is something that he was always told would never happen. And frankly, if it weren't for AEW, it wouldn't ever happen.
No.
This is the biggest opportunity a guy like Darby Allen could ever have possibly dreamed of, because there's no way WWE would ever take him seriously or ever do something like this. The closest he got was Evolve, and they didn't take him seriously at all.
Yeah.
So,
I think he would have been brilliant in NXT, but that's just here nor there.
Yeah, but he would. But NXT, AEW as it is technically bigger than NXT by a little bit every week.
Oh sure. I just think they let one slip away. If they do, that's what I was getting at.
Well, considering how many they kept.
Good point. Yet another one they don't have enough room for, frankly.
Exactly. I don't think they'd have the room for him. So
Yep.
I'm glad that Darby got his over here in AEW.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming though. I picked Cody to retain. I thought Cody was gonna. I didn't think Cody was gonna be this magnanimous. And I guess what you could say, Nick. I got worked because Cody's cockiness and his arrogance, I guess, bled through into my perception of him as an executive and as a booker. I didn't think that he'd let this happen, but here we are, and it makes sense why we had to have Brody Lee drop it back to Cody so quickly, so we could get back to this and get this done now, so that Darby could carry this through the end of the year and all the way up to Revolution, February 27th.
Yes, announced tonight. Revolution, the next pay-per-view will be February 27th. I saw it coming because of Taz's promo on Dynamite this past week, and it made a lot of sense to finally kick off a Darby Allin, Ricky Starks feud. If Will Hobbs and Brian Cage also get involved with that, not mad at it at all.
Yeah.
It looks like
keep
that's
Hobbs
what
and
it's gonna
Cage
be.
doing their thing. Starks and Allen
Yes.
are brilliant together, and they have great matches and they're great chemistry. And so, yeah.
By the way, shout out to whoever in the Facebook group said this, because it wasn't me, but somebody referred to Ricky Starks as Great Value The Rock.
Yeah.
And I've been laughing about that all week. Of course, he comes out in the unbuttoned shirt with the chain and the loafers on.
Oh,
and
he had the exact same turtleneck on on
the turtleneck
Dynamite
on Wednesday, yeah.
with the chain. But he's even said he's like I have built myself to be like The Rock. The only problem is he's half the size of The Rock. Is the only thing keeping him from being The
Right.
Rock, because he definitely has a lot of charisma. I mean, no one has The Rock's charisma, but he's got a lot of charisma. Next up, we had the Women's Championship match, which, man, we were kvetching about a lot before the show because there was you can argue if there was build or not, but I say no. I say nay. They did almost no build for this whatsoever. They just kind of hot-shotted it. The only build you had was the fact they'd faced each other before.
Right.
That was then like a little bit of interaction on Dynamite. That was it. Bare minimum, afterthought kind of build. Do you feel that hurt the importance of this match or how you perceived this match, Nick, before you watched it?
I'm not really sure what I was supposed to expect other than Nyla can take it back now that she has Vicky Guerrero at her side. And we did see evidence that Vicky Guerrero did come into play. She got a kendo stick. She tried to hit Shida with it. Aubrey rips it away from her. We had a bump spot where Shida threw Nyla Rose into Vicky. That didn't work out so well. But I think I expected this to come back to Nyla Rose so that we could go maybe a returning Chris Statlander in a month or two. I don't know. It was gonna. I need this title to go back to Britt Baker. So where I became really fine with this, the way it all worked out, was yes. At some point, I do think we're gonna get back to Britt Baker.
I like how you look at matches and determine if you like them or not based on if they fall into your booking ideals.
Doesn't
like what you
everybody
want
do
to
it that
see. I didn't like it because my wrestling. I want to see Britt Baker take the title off of Shida, not Nyla Rose. Me. But here we are in this match. And what was funny thing, Nick, you talked about all the spots in this. It was bordering on overbooked to actually being overbooked.
Yeah.
Where, as you said, lots of outside interference, and it's supposed to be a straight up match. Their last match was a anything goes match, and this match was not. It was supposed to be a straight up wrestling match, not a hardcore match, and yet they kept trying to bring in all these. Kept trying to bring in chairs and kendo sticks and Vicky Guerrero, and I was sitting there going like, why can't we just have a straight up match, guys? What's wrong with that? Ultimately, it did lend to the drama. I mean, there was a lot of big hits, and it felt like, booking-wise, they beat the crap out of each other. And ultimately, Shida had to virtually kill Nyla to put her down. It was a little sloppy. Nyla was calling a lot of stuff in this. But at the same time, I also felt the commentary didn't really help it, because there was one moment where Nyla had Shida beat, and she actually picked her up and said, no, I'm not going to pin her, and came in and tried to beat Shida with her own finishing move and sat on her, and Shida kicked out. And then Shida went on a hot streak, and the announcers kind of underplayed it. They didn't make it seem like a big deal that Shida had started to man up and, woman up, had decided to hulk up and was starting to like have a big comeback. Yeah. They didn't sell that. They actually took the air out of that part of the match by not freaking out and be like, oh my God, I can't believe Shida's coming back. Where is she getting this from? They were just kind of like, well, Shida goes to the other side. She's going for the running knee. Oh, she's got Nyla in the corner. And I felt like they killed the rhythm of this match by not seeing that and announcing it as such. So that bothered me majorly, and it was no fault of Shida or Nyla. But that being said, ultimately, like I said at the end, Hikaroshita's got to knee Nyla like 5 times in the face, finally puts her down, even picks up her head and does the same thing to Nyla, which says, no, I'm not going to pin you. I'm going to hit you a few more times, and then I'm going to pin you. Hikaroshida retains her championship. Neither of us saw that, Nick. We both saw that what we guessed was that because Nyla was coming back at Shida with Vicky Guerrero, in order to get over that pairing, you'd have to have them beat Hikaroshida. And instead what they decided to do was have Hikaroshida look like an extremely strong champ who'd come into her own, and that's the story that they're telling. Yep. And they had Vicky and Nyla have a big blow-up after the match where Vicky's screaming at Nyla and slaps her and walks away, and Nyla does nothing about it. So they have some other story they're telling there with Nyla and Vicky, but do you think that they told the right story by having Shida come out of this looking like a really strong, legitimate champion? Did they need that?
No. Well, you asked me 2 separate questions.
Yes, I did. A and B.
It felt unnecessary. Like, was this really necessary? I don't know what this served other than to start some kind of thing with. Are they breaking up Vicky Guerrero and Nyla Rose already? Because
I'm talking about Shida, not talking about Vicky and Nyla yet. Because we don't know what's going on there. But let's just Shida.
It felt completely unnecessary to me. Like, why even have this match? Even if it is just to prove that Shida is good enough to retain against Nyla Rose, who she took it off of in the first place, and to prove that that wasn't some kind of farce or a fluke victory. Sure, it serves that purpose. Well, I'll grant you that. But, I mean, other than... This was a big, stacked pay-per-view, and this did not really, in my opinion, live up to the rest of the card.
I agree, but again, was that because of the match itself? Was it because of the finish? Or was it the lack of build? And I would actually argue that it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
All of those, yeah.
But there was also a lot of
reason to care. There was no stakes involved. There was no,
But there was good things to the match.
Sure.
I think that they have good chemistry together. I think that Shida and Nyla work well together in certain aspects. They both have great strikes, and they look good taking each other's strikes. But at the end of the day with this, if their purpose was to have Shida look like a champ who has overcome her past demons, and Nyla was someone who, they even said coming in, this JR said, we believe that like 7 out of 10 times Nyla's going to beat Shida. This is Shida in some ways overcoming that, establishing herself.
Yeah.
Right? So
I like
from that
line
standpoint, too. I do too, but that's what Shida had to overcome. And so that's what they were defining here, is Shida is better now than she was last time she faced Nyla. But going forward then, that means whoever beats her now is going to be an even bigger deal. So it could be booking in a way to whoever now beats Shida, they make another star. Shida's now a star because she's had these couple great matches with Nyla. She's a big dominant champ now. So whoever beats her now will now automatically be a star. Whether that's a returning Chris Statlander down the line, whether that's Britt Baker whenever that happens, whoever it is, right?
Yep.
So
Will James makes an interesting point here with 100 bits. Thank you very much, Will. He says, one of my problems with this is that Nyla should in no way need Vicky to help her win. She should just be a monster, but can't even win with the interference. And I think that's one of the things that's a solid talking point as well. Why bring Vicky in if it's not to amp up the monster that Nyla is already supposed to be? And now you're not, with more help and cheating and interference, she still can't win? Man, that does some damage to Nyla in my opinion.
Unless the story is that Nyla was better off without Vicky, but that seems like a very odd story to tell.
Yeah.
Like Vicky's just getting in her way. She's overconfident because she has Vicky. Yeah, I agree though. It's weird, and that's why we both picked Nyla, which was you don't send Nyla against Shida unless you're ready to have her win because you have her with Vicky.
Yep.
Otherwise, why put her with Vicky?
Why even have this match at all?
Right. So if it's just to have Shida look strong, okay. Maybe that's why there was no build. You just had nothing really to say with it. So
yeah,
a couple of
threw in another 100 bits. He says, but I agree, sir, Ian, this could be the start of a good run for Shida, but they really need to finally push a woman or a woman's feud. And I think that is the crux of this whole thing, Will. Thank you very much for the 100 bits. The crux of this is that this really reflects how light the women's division is in AEW. We talked a lot about this on Wednesday or last night's show, talking about Dynamite. And I was saying some things about like there wasn't much excitement around the first 2 out of the 3 first women's champions that we've had. And I'm not sure what a lot of that is based on. Is it just that they're not booking them strongly? It's not for lack of talent. They've got talent. But is it? I haven't figured it out yet. I haven't found the code for what it is that Kenny and Brandy are trying to do with that women's division.
Well, it's very tricky to promote and get over a champ who doesn't speak English fluently. You can have a champ who doesn't speak English fluently. It's fine. It's totally doable, and it's been done dozens of times to great effect, and you've had some become very big as a result. Asuka in WWE right now comes to mind. Asuka's also a very special performer. You can't just strap Riho, and even though she'll get over once she's in a match live, people aren't going out there and buying a ton of Riho merch, and they're not also, I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten Riho existed. So, that's
while
the thing.
she was champion, frankly.
And Shida is a great champ. Once she's out there in the ring, she's fantastic. But as far as backstage and what you do with her outside of that, you need to actually create her world around her, because she's not going to be able to sell a match with her words the way that other wrestlers are going to be able to do. So you have to sell her matches with something else. Look how they actually treat Io Shirai in NXT. It's a great example of how to keep a mystique about a wrestler who can't speak the best English in the world. You have her speak just enough to get a concept over. You script her very tightly, and then you shoot around that. Again, hide the weaknesses and accentuate the strengths, right? Yeah. And they're accentuating Shida's strengths by putting her in some of these matches, but they're not hiding the weaknesses and the fact she doesn't really have that star presence backstage or outside of the ring, essentially.
Yeah. Josh Lugan threw in 100 bits. He said, do we need to take the booking out of the women's division out of Kenny's hands?
Maybe Kenny's a great wrestler, but not a great booker. Yeah. If this is what he's giving us, then yes. If this is all him, yes. Take it out of his hands. He's had a year, and frankly, I think he's botched it.
Cody even said it in like the intro package and talking about year 1 versus year 2. You're not a rookie anymore. You guys might have been first year.
Yeah.
We're into year 2 now. And and Cody, I'm going to throw that right back at you, at you guys. You're not. I think we've even talked about this in the bigger meta picture of like, we're going to give AEW a year. Let's see how they do. And I've even said I'll give them 3 to 5 and let them figure out their way as they go along. But they've had a year.
But here's the thing.
2 now.
I give them the benefit of the doubt on the pandemic, losing all of their foreign stars to that in the women's division, and they had a lot of them. They had a lot of foreign women stars they lost because of that. So their division got gutted. But look at Britt Baker and Swole over the summer. And it's too bad that the blow-off match itself was a bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
But that feud over the summer was one of my favorite AEW feuds of the last year. And it was a women's feud in their women's division. Because you had two women going out there and doing stuff that was wildly creative and very entertaining. And it made a great feud. Why was there only one of those? You have other women. I mean, you're not, completely bankrupt of women here. Bringing in someone like Allison Kay, bringing in someone in like Serena Deeb, veterans, people who've been around longer, who know how to work, know how to get over. Like that's a great start. Thunder Rosa would be a huge addition if she ever leaves NWA and they want to pick her up.
And Allison Kay for that matter. Jesus.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So,
well, I mean, I'm sitting here looking at Tony Khan going, hey, can you write a check to Mr. Billy Corgan and be like, we'll just get this done?
Well, Billy's also sitting over there going, man, I ain't got a women's division either left. I ain't got anything. I got Zicky Dice. You know what I mean? So it's all right. So we can again.
Hang on, I got one more.
Yes.
Because he took some time figuring it out, and he did. Thank you very much to Yardy.
Yes,
who threw in 1,000
Yardy.
1,000 bits just passing by and thanking everyone in the
Absolute
Discord
animal.
for the company with this amazing show in this amazing group.
Oh,
Thank
love
you very
dude.
much, Yardy.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks for staying up late and hanging out with us, brother.
All the way across the pond and then some. Thank you, Yardy. Very
love.
much appreciated. Thank you. Dude.
Okay, I think we're caught up.
Yes.
Where to?
Okay.
So we're caught up.
I know we just talk about the women's division in AEW so much, but we also talk about the tag division because the tag division is stacked. It is. At the very top is sitting FTR with their tag team championships, and they defended them finally in the match everyone was waiting for a long, long time against the Young Bucks, a match years in the making. And strangely enough, when we finally got it, we're going into it with the Young Bucks kind of being heels and FTR being heels and the Young Bucks only having 3 legs because Matt Jackson's got a bum ankle. And then they throw the stipulation at us that if the Young Bucks lose, then they'll never challenge for the tag team championships again. So honestly, looking back at it, Nick, a very, very bizarre build to this match. Years in the making. Did it deliver?
Yes.
Did it deliver in spades? Was it what was it as good as we hoped it would be?
Having just watched it, having not had time to go back and watch it again, I'm going to say that was one of the more entertaining matches I've seen this year, but with the asterisk of my markery for tag team wrestling. Okay, let me explain. They did tributes in this match of just about every tag team finishing move of the last
hits.
2 decades, if not more.
Definitely more.
Even going back to, I think there was a Midnight Express spot in there or something like that. They did 3D. They did their own stuff. You had both teams.
You had swantons. You had
all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I loved that
Heart
because
Foundation
it
stuff.
hit my
Steiners.
Yeah, they did. They absolutely did the Bulldog, the Steiner. I can't remember what they call that. The Tower Bulldog. God, what is that thing that they do?
I'll wait.
I can't remember. I'm not gonna remember the name of it. It's almost 1 a.m. here. It's been a long week.
That's a good
guys.
point.
So the I loved it for my markery for tag team wrestling. These two teams are the absolute best at it in the game. Period. Hard stop. I'll not take any discussion or arguments from anyone. They are. And the fact that they not only had this match that we've been waiting on for years to finally do it. I agree with you on the build. The match itself over-delivered, in my opinion. Because they threw that tribute, those spots in there like that. And who doesn't love a good throwback to and it was so well done. That 3D, I even yelled it in chat. I was like, oh, 3D! I even threw my threes up. So I had so much fun during this. It was everything I wanted it to be. Do I wish they had another 10, 15 minutes to really just... The drama at the end of it was really wrenching on us. We were all just like holding our breaths and seeing what we could get. But it was just a little bit more. Yeah.
Here's the problem, Nick, is that I think all of us in some way expected when we finally saw this, and this is the expectations were through the roof.
Yep.
When this finally happened. And I want to think of this in hindsight as being kind of like Paige and Omega. I'm going to think of this as an appetizer because this didn't feel like truly what these two tag teams could do together. This was not as good as some of the best matches that either of these tag teams have had in the past. This wasn't even as good as some of the matches these tag teams have had this year. This was a very good match. This was not an all-time match. And that's, I think, what we really need, what I really kind of have to sit back and just relax about is that it's okay that this wasn't an all-time match. There was a lot coming into this that was going to handicap it. The stipulation, the fact that Matt had a bum leg, the fact that right off the bat you had Dax go to do a spot where he hits the turnbuckle and he was supposed to bust his hand. The irony being that you have one team that's all about the fists and the punching, and one team that's all about the kicks, and each of them are missing a limb. Essentially, that's one of the stories of the match. But Dax hit it too hard, actually split open something on his wrist, cut himself somehow, and had to go get taped up and was bleeding for the whole match.
Yeah, he punched a ring post.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't on his hand. It was like down on his wrist somewhere.
Yeah.
But it was, bottom line is he was fine. He wasn't fine, but he finished the match, and it did throw off the rhythm of the first quarter of the match a bit. It seemed like they were running around trying to figure out what to do. And for two teams that are usually very slick and very laid out, that was hard to watch.
Yeah.
Of course, the second half was unbelievable, and you got to see what they're both capable of. The other thing, though, that I didn't like, Nick, was the finish. Was Cash Wheeler having Matt Jackson dead to rights, and for a team that prides itself on being so smart, he goes up and does a front flip. A team that prides itself on all fists, no flips, he goes up and as a way to arrogantly try to beat the Young Bucks after a very competitive match. So you wonder why the psychology would be that he would want to arrogantly do anything at that point.
But I think that was the point, is that they've lived by this mantra of no flips, just fists. So the one time that he tries to go extra and do an actual 450, land empty pool.
But that didn't connect with me. The psychology there didn't connect. That to me seemed arbitrary. It didn't seem earned, right?
It was out of nowhere.
It was out of nowhere. There was no build for it. There was no I got to go back and rewatch BTE, see if they threw any hints of it in there, watch their interviews. Maybe they threw something in there where Cash was being arrogant about how anyone can do that stuff or something. I don't know. Not that I can recall. If they laid the groundwork for that somewhere along the way and I missed it, then okay, I'll come back and reevaluate that. But if that came out of nowhere and he just on the spot decided to do a front flip to finish the match, and then Matt comes over and takes him out,
and
with
just lays on him.
One kick, one super kick, and takes him out with his bad leg.
You just did 20 years worth of finishing moves on each other.
Yeah.
And a super kick, a barefoot super kick is going to be the thing that. No,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
It was a lame finish, and that also to me took away from this match. So no,
It also feeds into the trolls of people that talk about all of the false finishes and the finishing moves and things like that is typical in things outside of WWE. And I have to kind of go, you got a point. This is the stuff.
This is what we're talking about. It's an arbitrary finish. You can't have all of these strong finishes without having a big one at the end that finally takes somebody out. And you have to have a big one. If you don't, and you have just like one of these arbitrary moves, all these moves, out of all of these moves, one arbitrary move finishes it. It doesn't feel right. You sit there and go, why did that one do what all those other ones couldn't do, especially when you essentially no-sell all of them after a couple of minutes, right? You're taking all of their finishers, and then like half a second later, you're told you're fine. You're able to pop back up. Oh, it's adrenaline. You're trying to sell to us that you're getting beat up in there. You're not trying to sell to you've got to, maybe project that to us, not this. This idea that, well, maybe it was adrenaline or, I know it's exciting. I get it. We've had this argument how many times. We don't need to get back into it now. Suffice to say, the ending left me a little cold of this match.
Yep. I figured it out, by the way. It's called the Steinerizer. The thing that had me confused was they did the exact same sort of electric chair move where one of them was a clothesline lariat, one of them was a flying bulldog, and it's the Steinerizer. That's the one that they did, which is the electric chair bulldog. The other one is the same exact thing, electric chair clothesline, called the Steiner device.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, which could
That was one of many. We even got a DIY tribute in there in opposing corners. Just all kinds of good stuff. So
not the Doomsday device, but the Steiner device.
Right.
Not totally not the same thing.
Yep. No, not at all.
Not at all.
So yes, I agree with you. I absolutely loved all of the tribute and the throwback. You pulled on my heartstrings quite a bit, but the finish was.
It was a little meh, and also because one of the things that we had said about this, Nick, was the Young Bucks are in a position now where 1 year after Cody said, if I lose, I'm never going to challenge for the heavyweight championship again. The Bucks say, if we lose, we're never going to challenge for the championships again, the tag championships. And you went for it and were like, okay, I guess they're going to do what Cody's going to do and take themselves out of the picture so they don't have to worry about anyone criticizing them when they ultimately take the titles.
Right.
And I was initially for that, and then the more I thought about it, the more I went, no, the way that they're building this, I imagine the Bucks would win this. And I don't think it's the right decision. But I picked the Bucks to win here.
Yep.
And I still think it's the wrong decision. I think as much as that stipulation did make me more invested in the match, and it had my heart in my throat a lot more because there was so much on the line, ultimately I think that was a cheap one. It was a cheap stipulation.
Yep.
And it made it so that they arbitrarily had to win a match I didn't think the Bucks should win.
They should not have won that match.
Agreed.
I agree.
So.
Let me get caught up here a little bit. Kyle threw in 100 bits. Thank you, sir. He said Billy ain't got nobody but Nick Aldis and the Pope.
Yep.
You know, I'm really missing NWA Power. I haven't gotten back on the train. I don't really have an idea of what they're doing over there anymore.
Nothing. There's nothing.
Yeah.
They have nothing. They've done nothing this whole time. Poor guys.
Yep. Thank you very much, Kyle. Also, Josh Logan threw in 100 bits. He said, I honestly thought they were going to swerve us and say Nick wasn't medically cleared, get them out of the corner they backed themselves into.
Matt, you mean?
Or you're talking about Matt with his ankle, or tibia, whatever the hell he's got a high ankle sprain or whatever the hell he's got going on. That would have been
MCL and ACL mild tear, from what I understand, but
that's knee though.
I'm just telling you what I have read of his medical condition, legit medical condition.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you very much, Josh. But I also have to announce that Steven Larson.
Oh my soul!
What is up, boys?
What's up, everybody?
Welcome to the channel, everybody. Welcome to Busted Wide Open.
We're in the middle of kvetching about the Young Bucks and FTR match and how the Young Bucks
we'd love to hear what you guys thought about the finish of that tag team match. We were going all crazy about that one. Oh, we're getting rated. This is always a good time. Shout out to Going In Raw. Thank you guys.
Love you guys.
Larson.
Hope you enjoyed the show as well.
We had a blast. So we're about halfway through. We're getting to the end here, guys. We're doing our recap.
Yeah.
So come and stick around. Join us. Thanks for everybody following the channel. Welcome aboard. So, Ian, where are we at?
Right now, we just finished up the Young Bucks and FTR, talking about the tag match. The Young Bucks are the champs now going forward with their new aggressiveness, with their new heelishness. I wonder if they keep that up now, or if that goes away and they're like, yay, we've got the belts. Ha. What happens to FTR now? I think this was the wrong decision to have the Bucks win at this point and backing themselves in the corner like that. The build was awkward. It's overall, it was a very good match. Not as good as it could have been.
Agreed.
But then we had the Elite Deletion. Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy on the Hardy compound. I was tempted
about 30
to
minutes
say,
from my house, fun fact, for those that don't know. And another fun story, there was some stuff that happened during this match, and then subsequently I also had a post in our neighborhood Facebook group that said, hey, were those fireworks I heard just a minute ago? We'll talk about that in just a minute.
They're setting off fireworks into the pines.
Right.
But the Elite Deletion takes place on the Hardy compound. It's another one of the Hardy universe kinds of things. Even though Matt doesn't have the streak in his hair anymore, he still acted like Broken Matt for most of this. Sammy, to run this all down would take forever because it was a ton of stuff happened. You had Sammy's golf cart gets run over by a monster truck. You had Private Party show up. You had Santana and Ortiz show up, and they all did a whole bunch of wrestling inside a ring out in the forest. Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy are chasing each other with fireworks. We get to the Lake of Reincarnation, and the Hurricane shows up. So does Gangrel. Out of what? Hurricane gets thrown into the Lake of Reincarnation, comes back as Shane Helms, mild-mannered reporter Shane Helms, gets thrown back into the lake, comes back as the Hurricane. And then they end up in the Dome of Deletion, and that's when things start to get brutal. Sammy does a swanton bomb off the top of a ladder onto Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy ends up surviving, takes Sammy out of the ring through a couple of tables, bashes Sammy's head on the ground, a la Matt Hardy at the last pay-per-view. And then he proceeds to hit him in the face with a chair, a la one of their matches before that.
Right.
And then finally takes out Sammy, puts him away, bloody Sammy, puts him in a trash can. They wheel him out. Senior Benjamin's there with the truck, and they drive him away. So, Nick, compare this to the Hardy matches of yore. The Hardy comp, like, where does this rank for you on that scale? Does it hold
a little
up?
Bit of the Jeff Hardy Brother Nero Ultimate Deletion, I think is what they referred to it as.
Yes,
from Impact.
Deletions. Exactly.
Yeah, so that's where the influence I felt the most. But we've had so many other kind of tropes and things developed as part of the Hardy compound matches over the last few years that those were now all part of this, right? I was disappointed we didn't get a King Maxwell appearance. I will say that openly. He is old enough now.
It's past his bedtime. The kid's got to sleep sometime.
His Majesty has no bedtime, sir.
He does. He's still a kid. He has to
but
sleep
he's like
sometime.
8 now, right?
Maybe. He's still got a bedtime when you're 8? What, did your parents let you stay up till midnight at 8 o'clock? Like, what were you doing?
No, but they went upstairs and went to bed, and I got back up and turned my Nintendo on and played till 2 or 3 in the morning.
This explains so much.
I know. Yep.
So I guess my question is was this still fresh enough for you, or is it getting old for you? Because some parts of this, I popped obviously for Hurricane, I popped for Gangrel. There were some great little one-liners like Sammy Guevara slips and falls into a mud pit and can't quite get out of it. And Matt Hardy says, "Get out of the mud," or some old fuddy-duddies are going to think that we're actually a mud show. Nice shot at Jim Cornette. Like, there was some fun little one-liners, and there was some actual wrestling and some nice brutal spots. But then there were some parts that it was also very kind of weird and awkward, and it dragged. So overall, I guess, Nick, is this still a viable... Is it still a viable gimmick for you? Is it like a style, I guess?
Very much so. I would just say tie up the edits a little bit cleaner. There were certainly some things that you could tell were done hastily, I think is the word that I'll use. There was not a lot of... The audio didn't match in certain places. There were clippy parts in the cuts, and you could tell that they were...
Yeah.
Right, I'm absolutely nitpicking, and I apologize for it. But was it one of the best I'd ever seen? No. Do I love this kind of stuff? Hell yes. Okay. I love this kind of stuff. This reminds me of the old VHS tapes that you would get of just backyard wrestling kind of stuff. And the stuff that you as kids would create, the stories that you would create, just playing in the woods when you would tie a pillowcase around your neck as a cape and have a big stick and run around. Yes! All of this stuff is amazing. I absolutely love this stuff. And the fact that we got the throwback spots of Hurricane Helms. We got Gangrel in there. We got a Senior Benjamin spot. Private Party showed up. The rest of the Inner Circle showed up. This was fantastic.
I'm not going to lie.
I can't wait to go watch it again.
I would like to see it again. I definitely want to take it in again because it's so much coming at you in this.
Right.
I actually am wondering. I know AEW does a lot of business with people that aren't signed to them. And I wonder how much more Shane Helms and Gangrel will have to do with AEW. Gangrel runs actually a pretty reputable wrestling school. And I wonder if he'd get involved with the Nightmare Factory. I wonder, Shane Helms didn't do anything. He lost his job at WWE in the big firing back in the early summer here.
Yeah.
So, and he's recently had a big blowout with Road Dogg on Twitter. So I wonder if they're in here to do business with AEW. That'd be very interesting.
Yeah.
I would be down with that. The last thing I want to ask you, Nick, and get your opinion on.
Okay.
Obviously, so at the end of this, the receipt spots. Sammy falls, bumps the back of his head, pops it up. He pops him in the face with the chair, busts him open. They were spots that were, I'm calling them receipt spots because they were both botches, either Sammy's fault or just wrestling, bad, wrong place, wrong time.
Matt Hardy broke the wrong way. And
Matt went a little too far, and it was just an ugly spot. But it was also AEW should not have let Matt Hardy continue. And I think that's become the consensus after everything's said and done. Everyone's looked at it from a bit more of a distance. Do you think that it's in bad taste to have Sammy recreate those spots when AEW already gotten a bit of hot water for them before? And so as a way to have Matt Hardy kind of get his revenge on Sammy, to recreate them, Sammy's now paid for his sins. Yes, I understand story-wise, but is it in bad taste?
That's a line.
Or is it
that
wrestling
I
and
don't know
do we
if I wanna
care?
Step over. This was a Hardy compound match. I'm not trying to read anything into it. I think people that do are kind of missing the point in the first place. Eat your popcorn, enjoy the spectacle that they're putting in front of you. So they took a lot of time. There were a lot of cuts here. There were a lot of different sets and scenes and things that they were filming. They took a lot of time to make this for us. And I'm not going to sit here and nitpick it apart and saying that Rebby was loud enough on Twitter that they needed to go have some kind of receipt spot just to appease Rebby, right?
Sure.
So I'm not going to do that. I enjoyed this, and I can't wait to go watch it again as soon as we're done with the show here. That, and I might just watch this whole show all over again at some point. But I really enjoyed this. I've enjoyed all of the Hardy Compound cinematic matches, if you will, put them together. Yeah. And this, to me, really called back to the Ultimate Deletion from back before Broken Matt Hardy.
Well, called back to a lot of stuff.
Before the Hardys came back at WrestleMania, really.
The chair of wheels was there, the
right.
piano, yeah. But no, just to
clarify.
The
mower of lawns
was hiding
there.
in the background. I didn't see it. You said it was there. I had to put my 2 cents in and say that I wasn't offended by them doing those spots either. To me, it was just part of the story.
Yeah.
But we have to discuss it because it's a talking point. They're talking about it out in the Twitterverse. So we have to weigh in on it. We also have to weigh in.
Unhooked the ropes and tried to choke him to death with it. And you're worried about a few drops of blood coming out of the back of it?
Hey, man, they tried to drown Shane Helms, okay? That's some serious stuff really happened in this. But serious stuff also happened in MJF versus Chris Jericho. Oof. This was a match where if MJF won, he would be inducted along with Wardlow into the Inner Circle, Chris Jericho's Inner Circle. To get into the gang, you got to beat the head of the gang. And that's what Chris Jericho's idea was here. He also called MJF soft and said, maybe you don't have what it takes to be in the Inner Circle because you're soft. And MJF didn't like that, tried to pretend like he was all hard, and then got into this match. And for the most part of it, wrestled very intelligently. And then ultimately, the finish of this match was maybe my favorite finish of the night, Nick. Because after a nice match where MJF was working over Chris Jericho's arm so he couldn't do the Judas effect, right? And the whole thing looked like MJF was going to beat Chris Jericho by just outwitting him.
Mm-hmm. Disabling his unkicked out of finisher.
Right. What happens instead, MJF goes for the cheat with Wardlow. Wardlow throws him the ring. Aubrey gets distracted by Wardlow, pulls over in the corner. Hager throws Jericho the bat, Floyd. Jericho winds up with the bat, and MJF just throws the double birds at him, laughs, falls down on his back in the Eddie Guerrero special right as Aubrey turns around, sees Jericho hold the bat. MJF sells the injury, and Jericho's going, what? No! What? And then MJF rolls him up. 1, 2, 3. MJF beats Chris Jericho, not by being the hardest man in the room, but by being the smartest man in the room. I loved it. Brilliant finisher. And then having him kiss his ring into the camera and then see Aubrey coming and going, ooh, 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 and hide it in his trunks again.
Yeah.
Just icing on the cake. I loved it.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I have no complaints about this whatsoever. I am only intrigued even more to see, holy crap, after dinner dip on air or whatever the hell they called it.
What else these guys have up their
this
sleeve?
match, what in the world are we going to do next? Like, just turn these two geniuses loose and just let them be magical and continue to do more.
Whether or not you like their stuff, whether or not you think that they're geniuses, you have to admit that they're relentlessly creative. They're putting out things you haven't seen before in wrestling. Whether it's your cup of tea and not is almost irrelevant because they're always innovating and trying stuff that's new, whether it's a stadium stampede, whether it's an orange pea match, or whether it's having two heels in a major wrestling organization battling so that one of the heels can be in the other heel's faction.
Yeah.
Like, when's the last time we talked about this before? When's the last time that you've had that dynamic in a company. I can't think of it.
I couldn't think of one.
Yeah.
We talked about this earlier in the week or last night on the show. I can't think of one.
It's very out there, and it's also very intriguing, and you wonder who's playing who. There's a lot of levels going on here. It's a great storyline.
I mean, you could throw a bone to Cedric for getting into Hurt Business, I guess, kind of.
But that was a traditional heel turn, right? He turned on his friends and joined the
sure.
heel. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This isn't that. So it's a very odd dynamic, and this match was, I think, just long enough to sell that it was a match, and then it went right back to being plot, and then now as we both guessed, we both did a pick when we did the pick'ems. We said MJF's winning this. It's the more interesting story. There's more to do if MJF and Wardlow are in Inner Circle, and sure enough, as the match ended, we already saw the tensions between Wardlow and Hager and all the rest of it. So there's more there. There's more grist there. There's more they can do. So, and I loved how they got there, loved the finish. MJF didn't have to be the hardest guy in the room, and that was something that I was wondering how they were going to navigate, and they navigated it perfectly. Chef's kiss.
I love how they exited the ring, too. So if you pay attention to the way that they all exited the ring, Wardlow held the ropes for MJF, who then held the ropes for Jericho to get out, and then MJF got out, and then Wardlow looked cut eyes right at Hager, who was still in the ring, and gave him a sneer and just stepped out of the ring instead of holding the ropes for him well.
And then MJF at the top, Jericho raises one hand, and you see him just put his hand up for Hager, and Hager just kind of goes, "Are you kidding me?" and raises his hand.
That hesitation, and I'm just like, it's brewing. They're just going to rot Inner Circle from within, and it's going to be magical to watch.
Yeah, I love detail work like that. It always, that to me is the most delicious stuff that there is in wrestling.
Couple of quick call-outs real quick. Jacob gifted a Tier 1 sub to Boss Bradley. Thank you very much, Jacob. Boss Bradley, make sure you thank that other kid you know for your gifted Tier 1 sub. Let's see. Josh Logan gifted a Tier 1 sub. What? Okay, sometimes I have questions on Twitch. Josh Logan gifted a Tier 1 sub to Mungus Khan. That's me. You?
It's because it's an automatic one. He's like, I'm just going to gift someone and randomly chooses. It's the second one I've been given. That's awesome. Thank you, dude.
So you gave a Tier 1 sub. Thank you very much, guys, for all the gifted subs. And again, thanks to all the Going In Raw folks for hanging around with us. Hope you enjoy the show. Let's see. Where do we go from here?
Right to the main event, my friend.
Right to the last thing to talk about.
John Moxley, Eddie Kingston, I Quit match. And we're right back in John Moxley's wheelhouse.
Yeah, I have to preface this by saying I am a former CZW fan.
Right.
And so there's history for me here.
Right.
That so when it started, when the barbed wire came out, when the tax came out, we're in chat talking about, are the light tube bundles around the corner? Is there going to be a rider truck powerbomb spot through a tower of light tubes? Are we going to go all the way with this? Are we going to throw it back to old school CZ? Nope, we didn't quite get there.
Did not quite get there. We had a lot of nasty stuff. We had the barbed wire bat. We had a piece of barbed wire get taken off that bat and used as like a glove, an extra thing to hit someone with.
Right.
Wrap around your hand and punch somebody, but it hurts you. I love how Eddie Kingston sells that.
Yeah.
I love how Eddie Kingston sells in general.
Yeah.
But this match, it very quickly devolved into just north of a death match, hardcore brawl. Blood started within 5 minutes. Both busted open.
Excuse me?
Sorry, excuse me. Well, they weren't busted wide open. They were just busted open. So I just want to be accurate about this, Nick.
Oh, that's fair. Okay.
But
within 1 minute of the match, Moxley's nose was already bleeding, and I was like, "Here we go. Yes, okay,
right.
These guys are working stiff. It's going to be a good time." That was before any of the weaponry came out.
We actually had some wrestling in there. There were some suplexes getting thrown. The tax came out, and then we had a bit of a flurry of suplexes, a reverse paradigm shift, and then a suplex onto the tax. Moxley ate the whole tax spot this time. And then ultimately the match came down to, I mean, we had there was a lot of nasty spots in this. We had crotch stomps. We had bulldog chokes with barbed wire. I'm trying to think of all the other crazy stuff that they got that got going on here. There was at one point, Eddie Kingston picks up a whole bunch of tacks in his hand and punches Moxley in the face, which I sat there and went,
why would you drive tacks into the palm of your own hand?
I mean, I think he was like slapping him with the tacks was the idea, because Moxley had a couple in his forehead afterwards, but it was one of those spots where I went, ow!
Yeah.
But why? But okay.
It'll go nowhere near to Joey Janela getting his feet slammed into bare
anytime.
Just bare feet into the tacks. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't mess with my feet, right? Just don't put my feet into thumbtacks.
I've been getting sent like actual like super hardcore deathcore matches, death matches recently, and I actually saw one where the bottom of a guy's foot basically looked like a carpet of tacks. It was just completely covered. It's like scales. So Joey, I've seen so much. I've seen.
So
some
you've
things.
seen a New Jack match or two recently. If you're getting sent
New
all
Jack
those,
is
right?
New Jack is like PG compared to stuff that I've seen.
Oh wow, okay.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen the stuff where like they have the mat with all of what do you like the skewers, like the wooden skewers. And
Oh,
it's
the
like a
Japanese
bed of
deathmatch
skewers
stuff. Yeah.
And like a guy gets power bombed onto that, and then he comes up with back like looking like a porcupine, back covered in skewers,
Right.
and then they pin him on his back on the skewers. Let's talk into his skin. Oh, it's horrible. It's like scissors. Anyway, we're not here to
obsessed
talk
with the
about
light
that.
Tubes. That's what I always.
I did want the
mark out
light
for.
tubes in this match. We didn't get light tubes in this match. What we got instead was Moxley choking out Eddie Kingston at the end of this with the barbed wire.
It was wrapped around his forearm, so he did his typical bulldog choke, but it had barbed wire wrapped around his forearm this time.
Which I'm not going to lie, after some of the other things they did to each other in this match and some of the things that I've seen, seemed a little light to me. And we've even seen, I would argue, more hardcore things in AEW than this match. And so Eddie Kingston saying I quit to that, after all the rhetoric, after everything, it didn't earn it for me. It didn't quite get there to where I wanted this to go. Eddie is he's so vibrant in his promos. He's so alive in his promos. And it's one of the things that makes him special. It's always made him special, for better or worse. But it's something that's brought him to the dance on this particular evening, right? It's what got him there, was his mouth, his intensity, his promos. And you buy in, you believe him. You start to believe him when he says things. And so you believe that this is a guy who you're going to have to virtually kill to make him say, I quit. And I didn't believe that they got there in this match. They didn't get to that point where I believed that Eddie Kingston was on death's doorstep and only mumbling the words, I quit, was going to save him. And that's where I needed to get to, and I didn't get there.
Yeah. I was on my way. Like they shifted into third and fourth gear, but they never really got to that fifth gear that I wanted this. Once they listen, you can have an I quit match. And then there's an I quit match where you introduce deathmatch level of weapons. And like I needed it to get to that level if you're going to start introducing things. Okay, cool. We started with barbed wire, great. We graduate to tacks. Fantastic. We're now using the barbed wire as fists and chokeouts and all that. Okay, you're getting there. Let's keep going. Keep going. We need some more. I agree. It didn't quite get to the point that I think that these two guys could have delivered. And in fact, I think the Kenny and Moxley death match that they had earlier in the year was better.
It was more exciting in some ways. This just felt more like two guys beating each other, like a brawl. That felt like spectacle. You know what I mean? And this needed to feel. This needed to be a brawl that felt like spectacle in that way, and they just missed a trick, I think, at the end of this.
Yeah.
And part of that comes from the fact that Eddie, bless him, got me to believe they might actually let him win because of just his heart and the way he was putting himself over. But for the most part, I mean, we both picked Moxley to retain here.
Sure.
Because there's no way you're having Moxley say, I quit after all of this.
There's no way you're having Eddie Kingston defend a title against Kenny freaking Omega.
Well, it's unlikely. I'd say it's less likely Moxley's going to say I quit after everything that he's been through. He's been the way he's positioning himself or trying to present himself. He's not going to say I quit. It wasn't going to happen. So you've got to make me believe that the other guy he's facing is scary, and that one of the biggest problems biggest problems Moxley's had as a champ, and we've said this time and time again, is he is a boring champ, only made good if he has a good opponent.
Yep.
If he's got an interesting opponent, it gets us interested. If his opponent is boring, the feud is boring, he's boring. Look at Cage. Look at Lance Archer. Boring. And it's too bad because that shouldn't be the case. And part of it, I would argue, has to do with his own presentation of himself. I feel like the happy medium is somewhere between how he was presented in WWE, how he's presenting himself now, with a heavy dose of how he was presented in New Japan.
Yeah.
And
I agree. That run he had in the G1 last year, we continue to rave about that. And
we talked about this ad nauseum, so I don't want to dwell on it. But the ending of this match, to me, just kind of made me sit back and go, oh, for crying out loud.
Yep.
Moxley, you did it to me again.
Yep. Jacob threw 100 bits and he says, whoever at my indie show heckled Eddie was soft for wearing sweatpants needs to take it back. Thank you very much, Jacob.
Right. That's like saying Necro Butcher is soft for wearing track pants or soft shorts. It's like, no. Samoa Joe is soft for wearing boxing trunks.
Right.
Yeah. Say it to his face.
Go tell him that in person, please.
We'll send a letter to your mother.
I'll gladly watch him remove your head from your body.
My goodness.
Oh, God. Yeah. Thank you, Jacob.
So where does Eddie go from here? I mean, he just said, I quit, right? Doesn't that undercut his entire perception? Does he have to go on now? I mean, he's got to go on a journey now to try and redeem himself, if he can do that. I really, truly wonder. Eddie has said this is his final, AEW is his final stop. So he can go on, kind of like a retirement journey now if he wants. I don't know if he's got a couple years left. I don't know. It's up to him. But this made me think, what does Eddie got to do now to get any kind of respectability back after this?
So you bring up a good point, and I hadn't thought this all the way through yet. So I know I normally speak in very hyperbolic ways, but bear with me here. I think Eddie might be done. I think this is a way for him to finish with someone he's known his whole life, and it's kind of a going out tour of sorts.
You're going out on a limb with this one. We've had no other indications here.
I know, but you bring up a good point. He has nowhere to go from here, really. And if he's already said that AEW is his last stop, does he just become a valet and a manager for the Lucha Brothers? I think he might be. I don't know if there's anywhere else for him to go at this point.
I don't know if he needs to keep having these kinds of big, bloody, hardcore matches. There's definitely a lot you can do with a guy that talented. I'm just saying, like, if
I
you
want him
have,
on the mic forever.
It's the Bray Wyatt thing. If he keeps coming out and saying, I'm the prophet, I know all these things, but he keeps losing matches, at a certain point you don't believe him. If a guy comes out like Eddie and says, this is my heart, this is my soul, I'll never quit, and then he quits, you just undercut him anything else he says in the future. You know what I mean? Like, it's, if you can talk butts into seats, but you have to be believable. People have to believe what you say when you say something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I still believe that Eddie's got that cachet, but they're going to be careful rebuilding him after this.
Yeah.
One more thing about Moxley. They keep calling him the best wrestler in the world at the end of the show. And I know that they're building him up like that because his next opponent is Kenny Omega, who, of course,
is the best wrestler in the world.
Was considered, well, no, Okada is still alive, Nick. Careful. But
okay.
But he's in the conversation. That's the bottom line.
Sure.
How can you call Moxley one of the best wrestlers in the world, where every one of his matches, title matches, at some point is a brawl? They're all fundamentally brawls.
It's the same match.
Kenny Omega can work any style match with anybody. He can do a death match with Moxley. He can do a 60-minute Broadway with Okada, and he can tear the house down, have people laughing out of their seats with Toru Yano. How are you going to tell me that Moxley's in that league when he doesn't have the... Okada can wrestle anyone's match. He can wrestle any style. But Moxley seems to only do brawl, MMA-tinged brawl, or somewhat technical wrestling brawl. You see what I mean?
I do, and I listen, I love Mox. I want to be fair to Mox. No,
I do too. I want him to be better. I want him to be better than this.
Yeah, but we don't need. I understand what commentary might be trying to do there, but you can't just wrestle one style like that and expect. Like, he even wrestled that way in WWE. There were never any high spots. It basically had the same finishing move.
He had a little more flash, but that's just WWE style. He'd have like the flashy signature move that would pop the crowd or whatever. So
sure.
He's got less of that. But at the same time, like I guess the other thing I'm asking is, will having a program with Kenny help him, or hurt him? Will it show off that he's one-dimensional because Kenny can adapt to him? Or will he up his game? We've already seen him and Kenny have a bit of a feud, but I would argue that it didn't really show us that Moxley was that varied.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to help him too much, and I wonder if the point that Kenny's just going to come out and I don't want to say squash him, but like
You're not going to squash him. He's
it's
not
gonna,
after
it's gonna
all
be,
this.
It's going to be
no way.
really quick. Like I don't know if
I don't think it will be either. I think it's going to be an actual long. After all this time, Moxley being so dominant, he hasn't lost all year. I don't think he's ever lost in AEW. You know, Kenny
he's
has
20-0 this year.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's like to beat him, Kenny's going to have to go through hell to beat him. But I wonder if in the process it will just show off these holes in Moxley's game.
Yep.
And then what does Moxley do after that? So that's
to be determined.
To be determined. Lots of questions left after the show. But overall, Nick, what were your thoughts on this show as a whole? Did you like it? Were you kind of meh in the fence about it? Or what did you think?
I was waiting for this part. I wanted to say it I wanted to say it at the beginning.
No, let's talk about the show first.
This was the first time. This was the first time I, without hesitation, spent $50 on a AEW pay-per-view.
You were very hyped about the card coming into this.
Yes.
What about the card hyped you up so much?
The fact that we were basically getting an all-star card here. It felt like that we were getting, our main event was going to be the old blood feud of Eddie Kingston, brothers gone awry between Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley after they've been building for the last few weeks and a couple of months, I guess, on Dynamite and beyond. We were going to have Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page for the number one contender. Obviously, we weren't going to get the full feast of that match, but I mean, we were going to get started with that feud. I think we're going to be into that feud for the next couple of years. That could go for a long time. We're going to start building some history and some lore in AEW with that feud. And I think the Young Bucks also winning the titles are going to play into that because after the Young Bucks won, out came Kenny Omega, and they had a hugging session in the middll. We have rebuilt the Elite.
Hangman lurking in the tunnel.
Hangman in the shadows of the tunnel, lurking out there. All of that is tickling my fancy. So all of this stuff, just
Cody,
one after the other.
Yeah, Cody did say this was going to be like a signature pay-per-view for them. He wanted it to be like one of the ones they were known for.
Yeah.
Do you think he accomplished that?
Yes.
You do? You think this was a strong enough show? This is one that they'll be looked back on and say that was a time that AEW really stuck the landing.
So we've had a couple of years now. We've got Double or Nothing, All Out, All In, Full Gear, as sort of, if I have to call their big four. But then we've also got like Fight for the Fallen. We've got Revolution happening in February again.
Like the mid-tier shows, yeah.
Sort of, the B shows, if we want to call them that, like WWE has, right?
Yeah.
So, I fully think that with Double or Nothing, All Out, and Full Gear, like those are, and I like that they're only doing one per quarter. They're not really doing a pay-per-view every month. So I'm a fan of that as well. I just want to throw that out there. Until they have some kind of streaming network, people aren't going to give you $50 a month to watch pay-per-views. But
I mentioned to a friend I was watching it today, and he was like, "Oh yeah, is it on the network?" I'm like, "No, it's AEW. It's $50." And he just went, $50?
Yeah,
there's not a chance.
We've talked about that here on the show. Like there are times where I had like Double or Nothing this year. Early, I had to sit there and go, am I really going to spend $50?
And this is the thing is, I think that they made it 4 hours and put all these matches on it to try to give us value for that. But at the end of the day, that's like I felt a little long. There was a lag. The crowd even seemed like they got exhausted at a couple points. It also, I personally feel like there's a sweet spot with the crowd, and it was just at that level where it felt like it sounded like a dead show. Right? Like instead of sounding like they've got a whole, like they mic it enough so they've got the people ringside getting more mic'd and then like a sort of a subtle hint of crowd noise. Now they really mic'd the crowd, but it sounded like a half-empty arena, like a dead show.
Yeah.
So it actually
took away
from it a little bit.
And also the commentary came down a little bit on that. I think it was during the Jericho and MJF match where it got kind of dead there for a little bit.
Elite Deletion kind of just murdered them because it was they were all watching on a video screen.
Yeah.
So I think that hurt. That hurt the show a bit, the pacing, the energy. But overall, a very solid show, worth the $50. Some excellent wrestling, some great plot, some great finishes, and they left themselves a lot of great places to go.
Yeah.
So definitely to be commended for putting on a show that if you're going to go out and spend your hard-earned money, at least you're going to be entertained.
Yep. And I wholeheartedly believe that if you haven't watched it yet, if you didn't watch it, if you didn't feel like spending the $50, this is one that I can tell you without hesitation it was worth the $50.
Unless you have a problem seeing rubbing alcohol being poured over someone's open thumbtack wounds, if that doesn't sound like your cup of tea, maybe don't. Maybe,
Listen, he and Eddie go back a long way. He was just trying to make sure that his wounds did not get infected. He was looking out for his boy.
Very nice of him, I've got to say. That's what a pal.
Infections are very bad. That can kill you right there, and then you'd never be able to say I quit. So
he's not going to get an infection anywhere on his body for at least a little while because he emptied that bottle on him. But that is it, everybody. Pick'ems. In the Pick'ems, it was close. We agreed on nearly everything, so it only came down to I was right about Allison Kay and Serena Deeb. Nick was right about Cody Rhodes dropping the title to Darby Allen. But then, as in a fluke, I flipped the coin and picked the Young Bucks, and that was what brought it home. I win 7-6. Good game, Nick. It was a close one. But that is the show. That was BWO's review of AEW Full Gear. So thanks for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you very much. And a big shout out to Going In Raw and Steven Larson. What's
Thanks
up,
for coming
guys?
by,
Thank
everybody.
you very much. Thanks for the raid. That was a lot of fun. And to all of you that came along in the raid, welcome to Busted Wide Open. Thank you for joining us. Hope you guys enjoyed that. We do stream every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, and every Friday night pretty much immediately after SmackDown, covering AEW, NXT, and SmackDown. And we also do all the pay-per-view recaps immediately afterwards as well. So thanks for following us here on Twitch. Welcome aboard. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at BWO Podcast. We do have a very active and lively Facebook discussion group. Fun memes and news items, all kinds of good stuff over there. Just search for Busted Wide Open over on Facebook. Send us a join request, to like our page, all that good stuff. Get into there. We also do have a very vibrant Discord community, which you want to come be a part of. You can find links to it in the About section right here on Twitch down below. We have live chats happening all week for all of the shows all throughout the week, and dedicated channels for our every pay-per-view to go and watch together with some friends and fellow wrestling fans. Very positive community that we've built here around Busted Wide Open, so welcome aboard. We'd love to have everyone join us. Last but certainly not least, if you'd love to support the show, you can sub or give some bits here on Twitch. We do appreciate that. You do get some buckets of chicken, and you get to avoid all the ads with a sub there. But the chicken. Oh yeah, we got people up to 3 and 4 months now. So that's when they get to 6 months, we're going to start seeing the buckets of chicken. That's when it's going to get real fun.
Yeah.
But thanks to all the subs and all the bits for today. Thank you guys. If you'd like to get some more exclusive rewards, you can head over to patreon.com/BWO. Sign up for one of our reward tiers to get access to copies of the show notes for every single episode. You get to play in our BWO Patron Pick'ems Challenge for the big 4 WWE pay-per-views that happen throughout the year. Coming up this month, Survivor Series. If you've never played before, it's a lot of fun. All it costs you is $5. All you got to be in is the $5 tier over at Patreon. You get all the other perks for that as well.
Cost of a Big Mac.
Not even that. I get a Big Mac for like $3. So
North Carolina. They're more expensive than Los Angeles.
Right. You can't even get a gallon of gas for $5 in Los Angeles.
That's almost sadly true. Almost
$179, baby. $179.
Oh my God.
Yep.
I'm down the street from the cheap gas station. It's like $3.30, $3.40 over there. I actually, driving back to LA, drove back to LA recently. It stops right around the border of California is when it just right as you get across there. That's where it, boom, goes right the heck back up. But everyone, thank you guys for hanging in the chat. Thanks to all of our regulars. Thank you to all of our phenomenal ones. You guys, as always, are absolutely amazing. Thank you to all of our patrons. You guys are the meat. You guys help this show happen. And thanks to everyone who hung out in Discord tonight with us watching the show. We very much appreciate it.
Yes, thank you guys. My name is Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at Data Center Dude.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Ian Dangerous.
But by God!
Would somebody stop the damn match?
This show is part of the Orbital Jigsaw Network. For more episodes, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. For details and show notes from each episode, check us out, orbitaljigsaw.com.
Alrighty, we're back. Let's get out of here. Thank you guys so much. It's nearly 2 a.m. here in North Carolina, so
Lord.
I am going to go to bed. I will have the audio version up tomorrow and all that good stuff, but you guys can watch the VOD and all that kind of stuff, but I gotta get some sleep. I gotta watch some wrestling and go to bed.
I bet you do.
What a week. What a
I
week.
bet you do. Everybody, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who rated. Thanks to all of our phenomenal ones hanging out with us. You guys are awesome. Thanks for staying up late. For those of you on the East Coast, it's pretty late over here on the West Coast even.
Yardy, shout out again, dude.
Yardy.
I know he's not in here still. He went to bed finally, but it
8
must have been
a.m.
like
for him?
8 a.m. for him. Yeah,
Belgium? Good Lord,
Belgium,
dude.
Yep.
Man.
Madman. You, sir, are a madman.
AEW starting an hour late and then running an hour long. Killing me, Smalls. Killing me. Where did my Saturday go? Everybody, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for hanging with us. Thank you for making us what you did on a Saturday night. We very much appreciate it.
Indeed.
It's fantastic.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll see you guys on Tuesday for the recap of Monday Night Raw and a little update on what went down in New Japan's power struggle this weekend.
Ooh.
Woo! See you guys Tuesday. Take care. Hey, no spoilers!
I know nothing.
Later, guys.